It was a thrilling game on Sunday as we saw a Game 7 between the Clippers and the Mavs. The Mavs got eliminated, and we're going to see some more Round 2 action in the NBA. This is episode 146 of The Next Best Bet. I'm Jake Higgins with Brett Levy, as always. And looking back at last episode, Brett, I did okay. I'm starting to climb back out of that May hole I built for myself.
There you go, Higgins. That's what we like to see, and like we said, it's a game. It's a long-term game, Higgins. You're not worried about week in and week out. You're worried about the long-term strategies, and you're plus money. I'm plus money, so a little cold streak's never gonna stop us, Higgins. We're gonna keep going, keep pounding away, and eventually we'll get hot again.
Both the pick of the pod and the Levy lock did lose. I had the New York Islanders money line. You had the Marlins money line. But Brett, your NBA parlay also took a hit because both the Portland Trailblazers and the Lakers in Game 6, they both lost. The series ended there.
Yeah, I mean, disappointing. You had two home teams trying to force a game 7, put them in a parlay. They couldn't get it done, Higgins. What do you want me to do? You win some, you lose some. I'd rather lose both ends of a parlay than lose like a nail biter. So at least I knew I was done. As soon as the third quarter in that Trailblazers game took a turn for the worst, I was like, well, probably gonna call it a night.
Well, our Beginners Boulevard's a good opportunity to try to get your money back, but I don't believe you would have had that opportunity with that parlay. Maybe with the Marlins, it's called a cash out. It's a way for bettors to settle a wager before the game ends. So typically this is, if it looks like in the current situation your bet is winning, the book will give you an option to take a partial payout a little bit earlier. You can secure some profits, but you're obviously not going to secure your full winnings that you would have if you waited till the end of regulation.
Yeah, sometimes it's fun to do this on NFL Sunday, Higgins, where you can play some 1 o'clock bets, some 4 o'clock bets. Maybe your 1 o'clock bets do well. You don't want to risk it in the 4 o'clock hour, and they offer you a little cash out option.
And there's also some cash out options. At least in Oregon, as soon as I place most bets, they give me a cash out option, but it's for 90% of whatever I placed it for.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, that's a nice little tip in case you place the
Absolutely.
wrong bet.
Absolutely, and it's happened before. I've had to take the dollar hit here and there. Let's jump into the NBA, though, Brett. As we have two games on Monday. We have two games on Tuesday as well, and I like both of these games on Monday, Brett. The Bucks face off against the Nets. We saw what happened when James Harden left the game in Game 1 early because of hamstring tightness, apparently. He's going to be out for Game 2. I don't think that matters for the Nets, though. I think the Nets are still going to get a win here. My prediction for this series, personally, is a 5-game series where the Nets come out of it. I think the Bucks will take one, maybe two, but I think both of those games will be in Milwaukee. Game 2 in Brooklyn with a line of only -1.5. Got to take Brooklyn here.
Yeah, Higgins, I am leaning Milwaukee. I'm leaning Milwaukee really hard. I haven't pulled the trigger yet, which is why I didn't want to give it out as a pick on the podcast. But the Nets have struggled without James Harden on the floor when it's just been Kyrie and Kevin Durant throughout the season. And even though I think Brooklyn's the better team in this spot, the Harden injury concerns me, but I've been concerned by a lot of injuries, and I've been proven wrong throughout the postseason. Chris Paul's injury concerned me in round 1. He advanced to round 2. Donovan Mitchell's injury concerned me in round 1. He advanced to round 2. Joel Embiid's injury concerns me. The Hawks did take game 1, but Embiid looked really good. So, maybe I'm just worried about injuries, and I shouldn't be, Higgins.
Well, James Harden is the floor general for that Nets team, the guy that's getting double-digit assists pretty regularly, actually, so it's understandable to be a little apprehensive with him out because it means a lot more solo work for everyone else involved. But I also like the other game on Monday night, Brett, and that's the Denver Nuggets at the Phoenix Suns. This is game 1 of this series, a second-round series. I saw the Suns beat the Lakers and saw the Nuggets beat the Trailblazers. I like Denver in this scenario, even though they are without Jamal Murray, their premier guard, who would be facing off against Devin Booker in this scenario. Nikola Jokic, I think, is going to contain DeAndre Ayton, who played really well in that first series against the Lakers. Ayton was a big reason they were able to grab some of those mid-round victories, but I like Jokic to kind of calm down the young big man in Phoenix, and I think Denver's going to take this one. I'm actually so confident on that. I'm taking it on the money line at plus 175, not going with the spread at plus 5, which I still like. I'm just confident enough that the Nuggets are going to escape with game one.
Yeah, I didn't really have a great feel on this one, Higgins. I think it's fair to say that the underdog's going to come out firing in this one, especially when they have the MVP on their team. But I have no idea. Phoenix impressed me in round one. Denver impressed me round one. I didn't think either of these teams were going to be here in round two, so I'm gonna back off of this series. I'm gonna watch it as a fan and enjoy it, but I think it's definitely fair to say the MVP as an underdog can take the game.
Yeah, I like this Nuggets team even without Jamal Murray. And it's actually interesting if you take a look at the finals outrights now, Brett. Now that we lost the Lakers and we lost some of those big ticket items, the Nets are the favorites at plus 160. But if you look at the bottom, the underdogs, it's the Hawks at plus 280 and dead last, followed by the Nuggets at plus 2,500. That Nuggets pick I might see some value there because if they're going through an injured Phoenix and play a strong game one, who knows what they could do in the Western Conference Finals. I don't think that Denver team could necessarily beat Brooklyn team, especially if James Harden gets healthy again. But you never know.
Yeah, Higgins, there could definitely be some value there. I think to your point, we'd probably have to, think about the cash out option in the finals because if it's Brooklyn, I don't really see any chance of them beating Brooklyn. But, a team that might have a chance in beating Brooklyn, the Clippers or the Jazz, just because they're a little bit healthier than the Nuggets and the Suns. They meet up for game one on Tuesday night. Clippers are a +4, Utah -4 at home. But I'm on a different Tuesday night game, Higgins. I'm on Hawks Sixers. Atlanta game one, excuse me. Uh, not decisively, but by 4 points. They looked good on the road. Trae Young looked really good. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm still concerned about Embiid's meniscus tear. Um, Not easy to play on a knee injury, especially as a big man, Higgins. So I am concerned whether he looked really good in game one or not, which he obviously did. I think Trae Young in the pick and roll has been such a problem this postseason, and I don't think that stops in game two. So I'm taking the 5 points. I could see Philadelphia winning this game. I would not advise taking Atlanta +180 on the money line. Philly's going to come back. They're going to make some adjustments. They're going to figure out what worked, what didn't, and try and focus on what worked. But I think Atlanta is definitely going to keep it close because they've got 3-point shooting and they've got the hottest player in the playoffs right now in Trae Young.
Yes, Trae Young, he has absolutely proven me wrong from what I said a couple episodes before the series against the Knicks began. I said Trae Young needed to prove it to me in terms of what he could do in the postseason because the last time he'd been in the postseason was in college. They lost the first round of the conference tournament, and they lost the first round of March Madness. So I wanted to see it from Trae Young. He has obviously shown it. He took a bow at MSG on his way out. It'll be interesting to see what that meniscus tear is going to how that's going to impact Embiid though, because it's definitely affected the Sixers in the books. The Sixers are plus 1,200 odds right now, even in this series against the Hawks when they're down one game, and I think a large part of that is due to Embiid's injury.
Yeah, I mean, I ripped up the ticket as soon as it happened, Higgins, like metaphorically, because now it's all done online, but that instantly became a loss in my book.
This Clippers Jazz series, that should be an interesting one, absolutely, though. The Clippers fighting through a tough game seven with the Mavericks, and then the Jazz. They are going to be hosting that series, at least in game one, on Tuesday, so make sure to keep your eyes out for that one after the 76ers game. Let's jump into the NHL, though, Brett. We have an interesting list of games. The Islanders and the Bruins, we're both staying away from this one on Monday, but we do like to head up north for the Winnipeg Jets versus the Montreal Canadiens. And interestingly enough, Brett, this is a game that was just played on Sunday, and they're going back to back in the playoffs.
Yeah, Higgins, back to back in the playoffs. We do see it a little bit in the NHL. I don't really get why, how it happens. Like, you'd think they'd be able to schedule this stuff so they can get a day in between, but we're going back to back. This series has been dominated by Montreal. In game one, Higgins, you'll remember there was a dirty hit by a Jets player on Evans of Montreal. And I think that set the tone for the Canadians. They were winning that game. That was an empty net situation, and Montreal has not looked back. They've actually won two of the games by multiple goals. I think Montreal goes for the sweep. I think they want to put it to Winnipeg, metaphorically, say F you almost for the dirty hit on Evans. And minus 145 is literally the threshold for me, Higgins. I found it with this line. I was like, do I pull the trigger? Do I take the minus 1.5? I think Montreal gets it done. I think it's a sweep. And I was like, 145 is enough where I'll eat it. I'll eat it, and I think that is my maximum now. I think I can say 145 is my max. I'll take the juice.
But you didn't take a look at the plus 180 puck line odds there? You
I
did mention the
took
Canadians won two of the three by multiple goals.
Yeah, I mean, I took the look, but it's a game four. It's an elimination game. I don't want to take that 1.5. I'd rather be on the money line.
Yeah, since it's a game four, that's kind of why I'm actually going to be on the opposite side of you here, Brett. I'm taking the Jets money line at plus 120. And I agree. I think this is the Canadian series. I think they're going to come out of this series, absolutely. I'm just betting against the sweep. That's really all I'm betting against here, is that Winnipeg's going to get one. That's really all this bet is about. In the first round, I was taking bets of teams that had the possibility to clinch their series and taking them on the puck line because of the desperation that you see from the other side of pulling their goalie and stuff. I I wouldn't be surprised if we see Price have a little bit more of a down game. He's only allowed 4 total goals in 3 games so far. I'm expecting a little bit more Winnipeg production here in Game 4.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Carey Price is one of the best goalies in the league, and you and I have talked about it a lot. The hot goalie in the playoffs is the thing to ride. So I am gonna ride Carey Price and his hot stick, hot glove, whatever you want to call it. He's only allowed 4 goals in 3 games, like you said. Montreal's dominated the series thus far, so unlike you, I'm betting on the sweep, Higgins. I'm all in for the sweep.
And then we have 2 more games on Tuesday, Brett. The Tampa Bay Lightning at the Carolina Hurricanes. The Lightning have a chance to seal their series. They're up 3-1 right now. We have lines for that one, with Tampa Bay being a minus 126 favorite on the money line, even though they're on the road. The other game we don't have lines for yet, and that's actually because that game's also happening right now on Sunday night as we record, Brett. Colorado Avalanche will be hosting the Vegas Golden Knights in in Game 5 on Tuesday. They're playing Game 4 on Sunday night. Currently in the second period, Vegas is up 3-1 with a chance to tie this series up 2-2. Now, that would be an interesting one, Brett, because this Avalanche Vegas you and I have hinted at is going to be most likely what determines who comes out of this Western Conference.
Yeah, we definitely think these are the two best teams, Higgins. So, it's actually been not as close of a series as I anticipated going in, but I'm excited to see what happens at the end of the game on Sunday night, and hopefully, Game 4 on Tuesday will be a good one too.
Absolutely. Speaking of Sunday games, let's hop into our Moneyline Magic, though, Brett, because on the baseball diamond, it looked like we had a game that was worth napping during. The Cincinnati Reds and the St. Louis Cardinals. The Reds were up 7-0. That sounds like the makings for a Sunday nap. But with moneyline magic, you always got to be aware.
Yeah, what actually ended up happening, Higgins, is the Reds would pull Wade Miley in the after the fifth inning, and in the sixth, the Cardinals would score seven runs to tie up the game. But
Sheesh.
someone
Sheesh.
that's you're TikTok famous, man.
A little bit.
Oh man. But the seven runs in the sixth would tie up the game, Higgins, but we're not done there.
No, and really, the Cincinnati Reds need to thank Jesse Winker, a man that had already had a 3 home run game this season. He hit a home run in the first, a solo shot. He hit a 2 run home run in the second, and then he would hit another home run. This one would be in the top of the ninth, though, to help win 8-7 ultimately. What a day by this guy.
Yeah, like you mentioned it, his second 3 home run game of the year. And the fact that all three really mattered in this one, Higgins, they needed every Jesse Winker RBI to get this W. Lucas Sims was able to get the save in the bottom of the ninth. And you mentioned it, man. Jesse Winker, hero of the day for the Reds.
And sorry, I misspoke. His second inning home run was a 3 run blast, not a 2 run. He had 6 RBIs in total in this fantastic outing. I don't want to discredit any of it. Want to make sure I get those stats right.
Yeah,
But
he
absolutely fantastic.
batting 350 on the year, Higgins. What a year for Jesse Winker.
Yeah, he will most likely be taken in all of your fantasy leagues, but he might be worth a shot just to look. Maybe just take a look. Just take a look. But yeah, Lucas Sims, he got the save for the Reds, like you mentioned, in the bottom of the ninth to help the Reds win there. And the Reds, in what seemed like it should have been an easy win, they had to struggle for this one.
Yeah, they had to go deep into their bullpen. They probably thought it was going to be a nice, easy day. A lot of guys ended up pitching for them, but you walk out of there with a win and one of your players hits 3 home runs. You got to be feeling pretty good, Higgins.
You really do. Now let's get into our Monday, but before we do, today's podcast is presented by Podgo. Podgo is the easiest way for you to monetize your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for ad space, so you always know how much you get when you include an ad from Podgo. Apply today to become a member and immediately be connected with advertisers that fit your audience. That's podgo.co at podgo.co, and be sure to add our podcast, The Next Best Bet, in the How Did You Hear About Podgo section of the application. Now, Brett, jumping into the MLB, and it's a pretty lackluster card of MLB games on Monday because, frankly, we only have 3 games compared to, what, the 14 that we're used to?
Yeah, I don't know why it's such a light schedule on Monday, but we got Marlins at Red Sox, Royals at Angels, and the nightcap on the West Coast, Cubs Padres. That's the big one. I'll get Royals Angels out of the way really quick, Higgins. I'm going to be on Kansas City simply because Dylan Bundy is starting for the Angels with a +6 ERA and an 0-6 record. Meanwhile, Kansas City's starting a guy, Jackson Cower, first major league start, Higgins. No one's seen him. No one knows much about him. I think that can get him through 3 innings. I don't know if Bundy can get through 3 innings. And then the rest will be a bullpen game, but Kansas City +112. And they've already taken 2 of 3 on the year from the Angels. I'll take those odds with the bad pitcher on the mound for the Angels.
Okay, I took a look at that game. I was leaning Angels, but decided to stay away because I just can't trust that team this year, especially with Bundy on the mound, who has just allowed run after run. I ended up deciding to stay on the West Coast, though, go with that night game you talked about, the Cubs Padres, Brett. And I'm going to take the Padres -1.5 at +164 on the run line. It's an interesting game because we have Ryan Weathers on the mound for the San Diego Padres. He's going to be facing off against Adbert Alzolay, and Weathers' last outing on June 1st was against the Cubs. It was 5 innings. He took the loss. I'm expecting a bounce back spot here for Weathers. That was one of his longer outings, going a full 5 innings like that. Typically, when Weathers is the pitcher for the Padres starting like this, it means it's kind of a bullpen day. But if they gave him 5 innings, maybe they're trying to actually let him work his way into being a full type of starting pitcher spot. And I'm hoping that he can get that going. The bats against Adbert I had a hard time saying that name. Adbert Alzolay. I think the Padres bats will get going against him. They'll wake back up a little bit. And if I wasn't on the Padres -1.5, I'd be seriously looking at this over at 7.5 -102. I think that's some great value against two pitchers that I expect are going to let up some runs and some bullpens that are going to get involved pretty early in this game.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to Azalea, I think he's been pretty good this year, Higgins. I mean, a .9 WHIP and a 3.64 ERA, like, that's not a number one starter, but that's pretty damn good. You'll take that in your rotation any damn day.
Yeah, Alzolay has played really well. I'm not trying to take away from him. The Padres bats are just that good, and when I see
Oh,
someone with an ERA
absolutely.
north of 3.5, that means I think runs are going to get scored.
Yeah,
But you're right,
no.
the whip is under 1.
Yeah, I think he's pitched pretty well. He's certainly solidified himself as a solid rotation piece, probably like a 3, a 4 in a rotation. And, he's going to lose some games, but he could definitely win you some games as well.
Absolutely, and like I said, that over under at 7.5 also seems tempting, but I'm going to stay away from it for now. And before we get out of here, Brett, there was some NFL news on Sunday that we should talk about. It did move some lines a little bit. Julio Jones traded from the Atlanta Falcons to the Tennessee Titans, and we did see some line movement because of it. The Titans before this trade were plus 3,500 to be Super Bowl champions. In New Jersey, that dropped to plus 3,000. In Oregon, that dropped all the way to plus 2,500.
Yeah, pretty good line movement there, Higgins. Hopefully, someone out there was holding a Titans plus 3,500 ticket and they can cash that out or let it ride and get some good value. We've seen pretty good line movement today.
Yeah, with those odd changings, you might have a cash out opportunity of a $10 bet now being worth maybe $11 even before the NFL season even starts. You might make yourself a quick dollar.
Quick dollar.
But there were also some other odds that moved with this. The AFC South odds, the Colts, they are slight favorites to win the AFC South at plus 110. The Titans at plus 115. Jaguars at plus 700. And the Texans at plus 2,500, which obviously is depending on Deshaun Watson not playing. But who knows where that would be if Watson is playing. And then in Oregon, at least, there is a futures players prop for most receiving yards in the regular season. And Julio Jones, I don't know where he was before this trade, but as of Sunday night, he is at plus 2,000 to finish the regular season with the most receiving yards in the NFL. None of these are lines that I'm necessarily going to touch, Brett. We're still a little too far out from the NFL for me. It felt worth mentioning, though.
Yeah, no, definitely big news. Big trade in the NFL. I think people are looking at the Titans offense and think it can do some real damage with AJ Brown and Derrick Henry and Julio Jones. So that's a real formidable three guys on the outside there. But yeah, Higgins, I'm not buying the Titans hype. The defense still has question marks. I'll line some question marks. Are we sure Tannehill's the guy? I don't know. So there's some question marks with the Titans. But yeah, definitely an exciting day. They are all in at adding a guy like Julio Jones, and they're going for it, which you love to see, Higgins.
The defense, I think, is the biggest question mark about that Titans team. If that defense can lock it down, that team has potentially some championship potential with those offensive weapons, but that defense is going to need to be able to create some opportunities and create some stops, which I'm not necessarily super confident in. There is that big question mark that you mentioned. Before we get out of here, the Levy Lock pick of the pod, Brett, and we both lost our Levy Lock pick of the pods last week. So who gets to go first?
You can go, Higgins. It's all good. You surrendered your rights to me last week. We both kicked the can, and I think you earned it back after surrendering it last week.
All right, that's fair enough. I'm going to go all the way back to the NBA picks we gave out in the beginning of this episode. I'm taking on Monday night the Nets -1.5 over the Bucks. James Harden's hamstring issue is something to worry about, but like I said at the top, my prediction for this series is Nets in 5. I think Milwaukee wins a game, but I think it's going to be back in Milwaukee. So this game being in Brooklyn, give me the Nets on the spread -1.5.
All right, and I'm gonna find myself on the ice, Higgins. I've stayed away from the ice, but I found a spot that I really like. Winnipeg has struggled this series, and they take on the Canadiens in Game 4. Montreal's going for the sweep. They're playing for their guy Evans, who was knocked out in Game 1 on a dirty hit. I don't think they let Winnipeg get a game. I think they try and stick it to him and say, F you, we swept you, get that shit out of here, Higgins. And I also learned something about myself. -145, as steep as I'll go on the juice, but I'm taking it for my Levy lock. Montreal on the money line, -145.
-145. That's the bottom for Brett Levy, we found out. And
That's
personally,
it.
I hope it doesn't hit because I took the Jets in that game as we talked about earlier on.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that is definitely it for me. 145. I had to struggle with it. You almost got me on the -1.5 plus 180, but I was like, I can't do that.
I'm just trying to find out. So, one that is a 69% payout for you, -145. So that is the absolute bottom. 69% payout. Nice. All right, there we go. The Levy Lock pick of the pod, Montreal Canadiens, Brooklyn Nets. Make sure to follow us on social media. We'll be giving out picks between now and next episode at NBB Pod on Twitter, at Next Best Bet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page and YouTube channel. This has been episode 146 of the Next Best Bet. For Brett, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you again on Thursday.